So again, a quick review. In the last recording, we got our program to filter the grid, including dealing with those pesky apostrophes. And now what we want to do is whenever I click on any record, filtered or not, doesn't matter if I'm filtered because these are just rows, I want Dolores' pizza orders details to show up over here. How do we make that happen? The selection grid lets us do that. And a grid has a selection changed event. Why not just use the click event? We could, but then the user has to click in the row. If they use the arrow keys, which many of them do, to walk through the grid, they pick on one and then they arrow down, arrow down, arrow down. There's no click, and it doesn't change. Selection changed happens whether they click on it or arrow on it or whatever, so that works better. So we're going to use the selection changed event so that not only can they click on a row, but they can arrow through them. So let's create a selection changed event. Easy to do. Double click the grid just like anything else because it's the default. Actually, it's cell content click, so that was a lie. Put that away. Back to the grid. And now it's going to yell at me because there's the extra piece of code to get rid of. Thank you. Okay. Click lightning bolt. Selection changed event. It's not the default event. So here's the selection changed event. I double click that and I got this. This method displays the details of the most recently selected row in the grid. This again is not a validating event, so I'm going to move it under the G's, so that would put it here. Now I'm ready to go. So one more time, I click the grid. I double clicked it, that was a mistake. I had to delete all my excess junk. Click the grid, use the lightning bolt to select the event, and I selected the selection changed event. By double clicking it, that created it. Now what do I put inside here? The first thing we want to know is which row did the user click on? And the way you do that is use grid select.currentRow. So now we know which row it was. Now it's not code, that's just a piece of code, so I'm not quite ready yet. That's just a piece of code. I don't want the entire row, I only want the ID. So I'm going to take the current row of the grid, that's what was up here, and then get to its cells. Those are the 3 columns. And I'm going to ask for the cell that is named order ID. That will get me the pointer to that cell, but it doesn't get me the contents. So I'm going to extract the contents by asking for the value of that cell. Again, back to what are you going to change? This, because your DVD database is not going to have an order ID in it. But if you call your grid select, it's going to have a current row with cells of DVD ID or whatever it's called. This value is a generic type. So the last thing we have to do is convert it to an integer because you and I know that it is an auto number field that makes it an integer. What do we do with that? Put it in a variable. So I'm going to define a variable that I know is an integer, and I'm just going to call it ID. ID of the currently selected customer. Now I'm going to go out to the grid, grab the number that's in that cell, and put it in here. ID equals, let's just go the full route here. The grid select dot current row, not cell, row, dot cell. Here's where the cells comes in. And then in square brackets, which cell? The order ID cell. That points to the box, but not its contents. To get its contents, we use the value property. And that's it. Except this value, if we look at the error message, says cannot implicitly convert an object, because what's in that cell could be text, could be a date, could be a picture for that matter, though I've never done it. And we need it to be an int, so we just say, trust me, it's an int. And wrong language, quotation marks. You happy now? Thank you. So now we have the ID number, which is the key to everything. We've gone into the row and we've picked the ID number. You know what? Let's see if I can put a breakpoint here. You don't have to follow me here, but let's watch this work. I'm going to run. And watch what happens immediately. I haven't even seen my form yet. It's not even visible yet. This is form load. Remember, it creates my grid and customizes it and then says pick the first row. Hasn't even shown anything on the screen yet. And we're already grabbing the ID, number 8, of that first row in the grid. Twice, 3 times. Holy cow, really? You done yet? Oh, come on. Why? Let's take that breakpoint out and see if it goes. Nope, still crashed. The reason it's crashing is because I'm missing a line of code. When I initially launched this form, there's no data in the grid. Not yet. And this happens first. So what we need to do, and we will, is add an if statement to say if there is a current row, then do this, otherwise skip it. And that might be coming here very soon. Okay, so trust me for right now. This will get me the ID. We saw one. What I hoped it would do is let me click on different rows and see that the ID number changes with each row. But because I'm missing that one line, I can't do it right now. Because this happens at form load. We'll tweak that. Here we go. One special situation we have to handle is if there are no records in the grid. What if I searched for, I think I did, a GW or something like that, and there are no GWs, the grid is empty, and if I say give me the ID number of the first row, there is no first row. So we have to handle that. Simple if statement will do it. If the current row is not null. So that goes above this. If the grid select dot current row is not equal to null. Then do all this stuff. There's some more coming yet. But this should allow me to navigate through now. And let's get it running first, and then I'll put the breakpoint in. Okay, so now I'm going to put a breakpoint on line 63 here, so every time it hits that line, it stops and lets me look at the ID. So I'm going to go to John's record here, and notice we're in here. The record has changed. The ID number is 49. Run. Paul Downs' ID number is 92. Run. Who did I pick first? Remember? John? See if we get the same ID number. Yep. The ID number is attached to that row. It came out of the database. Each one of those is unique. So that seems to be working now that I have that if statement in there. But we did have to check. This is for form load when there's no data, but also later when I filter. I don't want my program to crash. So far it's working and it's doing these IDs in the background. But if I search for a record with 2 P's in it, found some, about 3, none. My program doesn't crash. Even though there's no row here, the if statement prevents it from crashing. So that's why that if statement is there. Here's the rest of the code. Where the heck did get records come from? Okay, let's put those in. I'll explain them in a little bit. So at this point, I have my ID. I called it ID here. It's order ID, but that's the code. And now I want to try to get that record. Why a try? How could it fail? It's in the grid. How could it fail? The details potentially could have bad data in the database. Shouldn't happen if people are using my program, but I've already told you the horror stories of my users who go crawling into Microsoft Access and put in bad data. That's why I do a try. If somebody has messed with the database and I get this record, it is actually going to validate it on the way in from the database. It's going to validate it, and if there's any problems, it's going to throw an exception. And then I say there are errors in your database fields. And when my users call me with that one, I go, uh-oh, what did you do? And if they say nothing, then there might be something wrong with my program that's writing bad data. But at this stage of the game, more likely they were messing around in the database. So let's type that code in here. Actually, typing it really doesn't make a lot of sense. Let's save that for a second. First, I'm going to go to my, where was it? Text search changed. Remember we had our command that says pretend like the user clicked on the grid or changed the selection. I wonder if I need that. Hang on a second. This is another one of those situations where I look at it now after 23 years and go, do I really need to do that with a selection change? If I change the filter, doesn't that change the selection? And if I go P, it changed the selection. So I don't think I need that command. So I'm going to leave it commented out and see if it ever comes back to haunt me. There might be something I've forgotten, but at least right now, my gut feel is I don't need this command. Every time I filter, it picks a new record. And we'll test that to be sure. So here it says, uncomment that line somewhere. Uncomment the line in text search. I don't need it. At least that's what it looks like right now. Now, the next piece of code in my grid select change says, go get me the data. So I'm going to put the try catch in and my error message saying you got bad data. OK button, because there's really not much they can do about it. And an error icon. I took the EX out because in this case I'm not looking for the error message that I'm getting from the database. I'm just saying there is an error. In between here, I need to get the record with this ID, that ID right there. And then I need to show the details on the form. It's a two-step process. Remember, I'm in the GUI here. That's also complicated. I'm in the GUI. The user has clicked something in the grid in the GUI. I'm going to send a signal to the business class. Excuse me, I need some data. Business class is going to go, okay, who do you want? Goes out to the database, gets me the details for record number 49, puts them in the business class. The business class now has those details, and then we're going to transfer them to the form. So let's start with phase one. Going to the business class now, because in my data access regions, I now want to order lookup. I want to get a record. What was that? That's going to cause trouble. I want to get a record. So I have to create my own method here. Nothing I can double click. It's in the business class. It's going to be public because my GUI needs to call it. It's going to be static because, no, I don't think this one's static. Take that back. This one's not static. What's it going to return? It's going to return an entire one-person record. So it's going to return a DS orders table adapter. Is that right? Okay. Let's see why I have notes. See why it's perfectly acceptable for you to rely on my notes, to rely on all this stuff. Get record doesn't return anything. Oh, that's right. Void means it doesn't return anything. Its name is get record. I make it nice and generic, so it could be get DVD record, it could be car maintenance record, it could be whatever kind of record. Get record, but I only want one. So I need to send in the ID number of the record that I want it to get for me. The GUI has to pass the ID number to me. It's passing an integer. I'll just call it ID. This method gets the details of the record with the given ID number from the database. And stores it in the class fields. So it's going to go get that data. I'm going to grab all that data, and it's going to put it in all my properties. It's going to fill in all this stuff. The order date, the customer first name, last name, size, pepperoni, etc. It's going to fill all those in. It does both. Because just getting it from a database puts it in a data table, and that's not very accessible, not accessible at all from the outside world. Plus, we want to validate every one of those little pieces parts. So I'm going to slide up very quickly here in my notes to show you what I'm talking about, because we've seen this before. Please. Sometimes you just have to talk nice to Chrome. I don't know what that is. Please. I don't even see anything spinning here. There we go. Remember this guy? What this doesn't show is a grid. So picture a grid here. I've clicked the grid, which is really a data request. You go to the business class and said, get me the details. The business class comes down here to the table adapter that we still have to tweak. Gets the details out of the database, puts it into a data table. Get record is doing all of this. Send the signal, receive the data in a data table, and then fill in every one of the fields. Get record takes care of all of that. So there's my method. It's going to do all that stuff. But before we do, we have a slight problem. I have to go to the data class now. Remember, the XSD is my data class. I have a table adapter that gets me lookup data. That's not what I want. I want the details. The problem is that this query gets me every single record, every single field. I only want one record. One. I never want them all. Not in my programs. Never. So I'm going to modify this query. Just get data here where it says, give me all the fields. I'm going to click configure and I'm going to modify it. My computer today is just making me way too polite. Say please after every command. Please. Okay, here's my SQL command. After today, you all are experts at this. First of all, I think I'm going to trim this back and just say, just give me everything. From table orders. But I don't want all the records, I only want one. Where the order ID equals what? I don't know. That's what you put. I don't know yet. Every single time I call this, I'm going to get a different record. I'm going to need a different record. So the question mark says, this is a placeholder. You're going to have to fill this in later. You're going to...
Hey, I just had that agree with Epic. I wanted to let you know that they told me that they're hiring a lot of programmers and networkers coming up because they're building a new center.
Good to know.
So if you want to
Thank you.
share that with your
Will do. That was a commercial for Epic, which is a huge health, I think it's health manufacturing. They do health equipment stuff in Madison. According to him, they're hiring if you want to go to Madison, if you're ready. So wrong class. The other class, most of them already got jobs. I'll tell them. But anyway, back to this. The question mark means I will tell you later. I promise that whenever I call this, I'm going to send you an ID number. I promise. It's a placeholder. It's called a parameter. This query can be parameterized. That question mark says, I promise I will send you an order ID number. That's all we need to do. So now we're saying, give me all the fields from a record with the given ID number that we're going to give you later. Let's make sure my notes talk about all that. Come in here. Select star from TBL name where key field equals question mark. Now what was this fun stuff up here? Add an, oh, okay, we got to add that in a little while. Next. What do we want to call it? We could call it fill. Remember, that's just the name that we execute to say, you go do your job. I'm going to add the word ID or fill by, excuse me. Now what? It's fill by ID. Just so that I remember when I call this, I got to send it an ID. If you don't rename it, it'll work. You still have to send it an ID though. Next. Lots of blue check marks, pretty good sign. What all those blue check marks means is I can do this. Not only that, but if you need to, we can delete this record. We can insert into this new record. We can update the existing record, all kinds of stuff. Cool. And notice now this has been tweaked. It now says fill by ID, and it's got, I need to send it some order ID is what it's my clue. Now, what my notes were also reminding me, any questions, right click, configure. I take all the junk out, put in a star. And then where your ID field, DVD ID, maintenance ID, whatever the ID field name is, equals question mark. That's all. Save this. And now what my notes are reminding me is that my business class has all these fields, but there's one field it doesn't have, and that is the order ID. John?
When I finished my thing, didn't change to fill by order ID. So fill data.
Did you hit OK? Try it one more time. John had a little trouble redefining his fill by ID, and I think what happened is when he first retyped it, he put spaces in that name. Programmers don't put spaces in there. I'm surprised you guys don't write your first name, last name concatenated together all the time, because we don't put spaces between stuff, and that, I think, is what caused the problem. His didn't rename, it was called Phil, because then it found a space and said, no, I'm not doing that, it stopped. So no spaces in that fill by ID. I didn't say that, I should have. Okay, now back into the business class. I have the opportunity to store all this stuff, but I don't have anything here that lets me store my order ID. Okay. So I'm going to add a new property here. And if I remember right, it's prop full tab. Oh, not bad. This is an integer. I'm going to call it underscore order ID tab. Order ID. Done. Now we could stop there, and it wouldn't be terrible if we did. But to be a little more accurate, when do I ever change order ID numbers? It's an auto number field. Never. So we can make this a read-only property by getting rid of the setter. If there is no setter, then I can't change it, because that's what the setter does, is it lets me change it. So it lets me get it and read it and use it. But the property, the business class, the GUI, cannot change that. I never display these auto number fields. I never display them anywhere on the form. If I do my job right, the user has no idea these ID numbers even exist. But we still need a property to put these things in. And it needs a nice description, ID of the current record. Down here, I'll say read only, because there's no setter. Now back to my notes there. It said add an order ID and add the property. Notice the goofy typing. About time I got out. I'm getting tired of trying to fix all my IDs. So you know what? I quit. I'm not teaching anymore. I'm not updating any of this stuff anymore. Just done with it. Read only. Okay, we got that. We updated the XSD. And remember, this is your task list here. You could follow it in order. I'm kind of jumping around a little bit, but you can follow this in order. We need to fill in the question mark. Now we need to write get record. There's the int, we already did that, and here are the commands. Now, these guys ought to look fairly familiar. Make me a table adapter and point to the orders table adapter. The reason they should sound familiar is it's been a week. We did the same thing. Make me a table adapter and point to the lookup table adapter. Make me a data table variable and point to the lookup data table. I'm going to do the same kind of thing. And where did I put my get record? Didn't I type that? Where'd it go? Custom methods? Didn't I type get record? I didn't put it in the GUI. Where'd it go? Well, it's probably here somewhere, and I just can't see it just yet. Gets the details of the record. Oh, there's the comment. Is that all I did? Okay. I knew I wasn't going completely crazy. There. There's my get record. So inside here, I first need a pointer to my data class table adapter. Remember, whenever we issue a command, back to this one, whenever we issue a command, it's always to a table adapter, so we have to tell it which table adapter we want. var, I always call it var TA for table adapter, and that's equal to a ds table ordered table adapters. Whenever you're defining a table adapter, you use a table adapters class. Dot. Here's your choices. Which one do you want? I want the table this time. I don't want the query. I want the table. All of the details. I think that needs to be a new, right? New DS orders table adapter parentheses. Okay, forgot my new here. and parentheses. Done. Now, when that's done, it's going to send me some data back. And I'm going to want to put it into a data table. This is a little different than the other one. Well, no, I guess not. It's about the same. We need a data table. So now we define a DT, a var DT data table. Is a new DS orders. This is not a table adapter. Dot TBL order data table. This has the command in it. It issues the command. The command needs to put its results somewhere in a data table. That's my DT. So this first variable, the first var, points to this table adapter. That table adapter is going to send me some data. The second var is going to hold that data for me. Now back to the other notes. I think, yep. Oh no, we also need a row. Okay. I don't think this one doesn't have a new, so I can't use a var. We're going to do a DS orders row. Again, you steal and change the name. Call it DR. I'm just declaring a variable with a very weird type, right? Why can't I put var on it? Because I'm not doing new in this case. So this says, make me a variable called dr, which is a row, one row. Dr, one row in that data table. Back to the picture so you kind of see where we're coming from. TA, DT, the dr is one row. And if I'm going to get record number 49, how many rows do I expect to have? One. Because if I'm getting the details for one order, there should only be one order row returned. So this table is only going to have one row in it. DR is going to point to it. TA fill. And it's not fill because we renamed it. It's now fill by ID. Where do you want to put the results? DT. But notice underneath here, it's giving me a clue. Hey, there's a second thing. Because we said fill by ID, you need to give me a second piece of information. Fill using which order ID. So after this, I have to put comma, that ID number right there. So this said the same as the other one. Fill using this table adapter. Which table adapter? That one. So into the XSD. Which table adapter using? This one. Use the fill by ID, and oh, by the way, here's your ID number. Take all that data and put it into DT. So my DT now has all of my data. Next command. dr equals my DT dot rows. I better go look. Sub, there's only one, 0. This just makes the following commands a little easier to do. Doesn't like that, so let's go take a peek, see how I'm supposed to really do it. There will never be more than one row. And, oh, I have to do an ugly typecast on that. Ugh. This row is very, very generic. Think of a row in a table. That's what it is, a table row. Well, what does that row look like? Every data table looks a little different. So it's very generic. We have to go, oh, no, you're one of these order table rows. So I'm just going to copy this and put it in the parentheses in front. Still not happy. DS orders. Oh no, I need this guy. Wrong one. It's a row. Stole the wrong one. Now, so this says, give me the first row in that data table. And oh, by the way, it's this kind of row. At this point, we should have data. So let's go see if I can make this work. Nope. Grid select cell. Oh, that's still left over. That's just one of those events I created accidentally. Okay, now I click on one of these. It should cause the grid select change event to occur. Oops. Nothing's going to happen because I never called that method. I went to my business class and I created the Miguel method that goes out to the database and gets me the details of one record. He said, sure, I'll do that for you, but you got to tell me which record, the ID number. Every time we call him, we have to send him an ID number. But I never called him. So I'm going back to the GUI. And in grid select change right here, it said get the record. I got to call him. And I have to say a pizza order dot get record. And I have to send an ID. Which ID? Now let's remember where we are here. We're in the GUI. The user has just clicked on a row, which caused the grid select a change event to occur. My GUI has said, oh, the row changed. And so it goes down here and said, is there a row? Yes. Get me the ID number for that row and send it to Miguel. Then we go to Miguel, and Miguel says, oh, that ID number, okay. He makes his connection to the data, he fills, and he gets me row number 0, and he puts it in DR. Let's see how this works. Break. It's already getting the first one. I'm going to skip these first ones. Okay. And I want John Insner. If I remember right, he was number 49. Here I am. Now I can look inside of DR and see 20 cheese sticks, John Insner, none of this stuff. He did want mushrooms. His ID number, ooh. We just sucked it out of the database. So Miguel now has, in this little variable called DR, all that information. But he's not sharing yet. So our next step is to get him to share, and I think I can do this before we run out of time. Now what we have to do is transfer from that DR that's got all that cool information in it into our properties. Except for the order ID, because remember the order ID is read-only. It doesn't have a property that we can set, so we're going to bypass the property and go right to the ID. Everybody else, we use the property. So my order ID is equal to the dr.order ID. Notice the order ID is inside here. Remember I looked at him, I dropped the list down, I said order ID, and I said name, and I said all that other stuff. The dr, because it is a row for that table, knows its field names. And then I might as well just follow through with whatever order is up here. Order date, let's split the screen so I can kind of follow along. I just put them in the same order, but I have to do each one. There is no way around this. As far as I know, there is no way to take what's in there and put it into a separate property without doing each one manually. This is a little tedious. It's also going to be tedious on Thursday because on Thursday we're going to take what's in each one of the properties and transfer it to the same thing on the form, one at a time. There's no easy way to do it. The good news is we put it in a method. We don't have to write it once. But it can be a little tedious. The good news is it's also fairly simple. Order date equals dr.order date. Now I'm using properties. If the date in the database is in the future for some goofy reason. My favorite thing is to type 2105. Transpose the 0 and the 1. If I went in and manually edited the database and said 2105, this would catch it and go, no, that's in the future. And the GUI would say we got bad data. So we got to do the order date, then we have to do the customer first name equals the DR customer first name, customer last name. Tedious, but if you use all the IntelliSense, it doesn't take too long. Size, pepperoni. So again, this DR is the row that Miguel got for us out of the database. Just think of it as a strip of paper. And now we're taking each one of the pieces off of that strip of paper and dropping it into the right property. And at the same time, validating it. Now for pepperoni and sausage and mushrooms and onions and green peppers, these are Boolean fields. There's not much to validate, but I use the properties just to be consistent. Mushrooms, onions, green peppers. Tedious. Not done yet. Probably cheese sticks and coupon, right? All right, here's an interesting little feature. In the Access database, my coupon is stored as a double. Access does not have a decimal type, so to speak, and if it does, it doesn't match the C# one. This is a little glitch that we have here. So in this case, it's a double and a decimal, and I think I heard Lyle the other day saying decimals don't play nice with others. But in this case, I want it to be a decimal, so I'm going to convert it, and I think I have to, let's see if that works. Yeah, but I think I also have to make it a nullable decimal so that if this is null, and it could be, it'll convert it to a nullable. If this is null and it's not nullable here, I don't think it's going to work. That's just a special case. Whenever you have decimals in your program, they're probably stored in the database as doubles. And now Miguel's done. This method is done. He has made a pointer to the correct table adapter, created a data table to hold the answer, told the table adapter to execute its fill by ID command with this ID that he got from the outside world, from the GUI. Save that, whatever you get, into here, and give me the first row. The only row. Then he transferred all the data from this row into the properties. And now that they're in the properties, now in the GUI, we're going to display them. We're going to save that for next time. I could run here and see that each one of these have stuff filled in, but we looked in the DR and it had all the data, so I'm confident these are ready to go. So looking ahead to Thursday, we did this. This says whenever the user clicks on a new row, call Miguel, give him the ID number from that row, have him get the data. In the class, this happens. Miguel is a custom method in my class. So now this and order has all the details in it from that pizza order we just collected. Now what we're going to do is transfer that from the class to the form. You've already done that once upon a time, way back in Unit 1. We're going to do it again. We're going to create a method called showDetails, I think. showDetails. Display record. Sorry. Doesn't matter what you call it, really. And notice I don't even have to send it anything. So now if I'm calling Robert to do this, I'm going to say, Robert, do your job. And he's going to go, hey, you business class, I need the details. And that's what we're going to create. That method is what we're going to write when we come back on Thursday. A lot of this is very, very similar. I always call these TA, DT, and DR. Table, a table adapter, a data table, and a row. Go out and get my row. And then this is where your stuff's going to change, right? Because you're going to have a bunch of DVD car maintenance stuff in here. You're going to take all the DVD pieces, parts, and move them to the properties. Take all the maintenance pieces, parts, move them to the properties. How much if statements, looping, etc., and stuff have we had? Next to nothing. So this is a lot of code that you could copy in place. You got to change a lot of names in this stuff, but all this stuff here, probably copy it pretty close to the way it is. Tweak some stuff. Questions? See you Thursday.